understand that, why that is true.
If we were to freeze the steps, the dollar value was about $273,000. And then, whatever cost of living dollar value,
Which we put into the budget.
Right.
which is in the budget.
As a direct.
Yeah. It still only comes to, whatever you choose to put in for salary pool, cost of living, 2.5%, 3%. It still only comes to $500,000, $600,000.
Because the only contract we're negotiating are the teachers. Every other group already has a contract. And I'm not so sure any or many of them are gonna wanna reopen their contracts because they know why we're asking them to reopen their contracts.
And they're not big money contracts.
Right.
We have a handful of custodians and, a very small administrative group.
The teachers is the largest contract by far. There's nothing close to that.
Correct.
And I was gonna bring up the point that we're putting this budget together, and we cannot sit here, as Dr. Trout mentioned, in good faith and say, oh, well, let's just cut out the money for steps and for the salary pool. We can't, we can't, I don't know if in good faith we can do that, so we're kind of between a rock and a hard place in terms of how we put this budget together. We did just begin talks with the teachers. We had our first meeting about a week and a half ago. We're meeting again this week. So that's, I think the main issue is that we have all our contracts in place except for the teachers and the administrators. That's the main issue. But even if we got the other groups, even if the other groups agreed to reopen their contracts, to put aside their raises, if they agreed, okay, we won't take the raise, we won't take the step raise, I think Mrs. Vaca is right. I still don't think it would cover the $1 million. You have to remember, in the police department, fire department, they don't have as much of an unknown cost as we have every year, for example, with special ed. If you add we're adding another $300,000 to our budget, which I don't think exists really on there aren't as many, I don't know if there are as many intangibles on in some of the town departments as we face.
The biggest unknown for the town is snow and ice.
Right.
And they can level fund snow and ice every year and make up what they spend at town meeting.
Right. From free cash or whatever. We can't do that.
If we have a lot more steps in our contract, I
Right.
don't recall what's in some of the public safety. I want to
I
say
think five or six.
steps.
Yeah, they don't have that many steps.
So that a new public safety officer would come in maybe at step 1, and in 5 or 6 years they're at a max. But in our contract we have 12
12 steps.
Right.
steps,
Yeah.
and so before a teacher is really getting that full professional pay, they've been here a number of years, and
Yes.
so it looks like we've got these. Well, we do. We have these increases on a yearly basis, but we don't pay brand new teachers a full, real professional salary. We want them to spend time in the classroom and get the experience and some professional development before they get that, that salary, that professional level salary. So our budget will always have those kind of yearly increases. And
Right.
we're staff driven. 81% of it now is, it's staff.
And I know that most, I've been doing a very unscientific survey, and I know that most towns, most districts have a similar contract situation to us with usually steps, 10 or more steps before a teacher gets to the top level. And that's done so you can bring, as Mrs. Bach said, you can bring teachers in at a lower pay. It takes them a longer time to get to the top, but that means we're going to have larger increases every year for those 12 years.
Right.
Until the teachers get to that top salary.
And, teachers are expected to get their master's degree.
Right.
So
And we don't
we
don't pay for those courses for
Right.
them to get the master's
Right.
degree. So, they're on their own, have to get their master's degree, and so the step raises kind of cover that too.
It's hard to compare a school budget and what we do to any other budget.
Right.
So we just need to find the best way to make sure the funds are there every year. so there's continuity, which we haven't actually had in the last couple of years,
Right.
which is a shame, because we lose qualified teachers after we've invested in them. So, we were just saying earlier that we've got about $1,062,000 shortfall. About half of that is a salary pool. So even
Well,
if.
salary pool and steps.
Right, salary pool, it's cost of living and steps. So even if we froze those, we're still off.
Still off by about
Significant
$450,000 to $500,000.
And there is a concerted effort to come to an agreement on freezing salaries.
And I would add too that the school committee's decision to shorten the student year has had a direct effect on the work year for paraprofessionals and on for food service as well, because they work
Right.
same number of days as students do attend school. So that is how already, without even a so-called wage freeze, has reduced the total salary line for those two employee groups.
But, we did have the town administrator and the superintendent have agreed to a wage freeze for next year, so, we're setting the standard. Hopefully we'll have a lot of cooperation when we come to bargain. It's either that or mass layoffs, and I would hope that that would be part of the negotiating process.
So what we have to do here now is really come close to agreeing on a budget, not knowing if we're going to get any more funds from the state through a room and meals tax, not knowing if we're going to get any more funds from the stimulus package that was approved and signed by the president. If we get those things, then Dr. Troughton and Mr. Nelson will add them back in and have priorities on what positions to add back, et cetera. But at this time, we can't count on any of that money. We're hoping we hear more about stimulus. I was hoping this week. So, as Mrs. Vaca said, we're faced with $1,062,000 budget gap at this point. And Dr. Troughton's level 2 budget cutbacks total $1,048,000, correct?
And that number is arrived at, again, by reflecting the actual salary for a number of positions, and then taking out the unemployment, backing out the unemployment from any savings, and adding back potential fringes. And so on the sheet that was passed out on as part of the school committee packet, we just embedded the unemployment right into the original salary. What is different, so the number should be the same, except that I'm now adding the fringe back, benefits back in.
Right. And you're subtracting the
Subtracting out the unemployment. So you can see what that potential unemployment costs. So if I can go through this under level 2, and again, I know the school committee has not voted on any one of these positions. These are only here as, and I don't even want to use the word superintendent's recommendation, but as I work with the administrative team over the last 2 months, these are areas that we've targeted.
I guess we would say, is it fair to say that if we were to cut these, they're all damaging, but these would be the least damaging to the core program? Is that what the administrative council basically looked at? What would hurt us the least, or, I mean, how can you classify them at all?
I think we looked at every category of staff. We tried very hard to keep away from class size issues, but weren't able to in a number of
Right.
cases.
Okay.
So if I can go through these, and these are not in any order of priority, but Under level 2, we would reduce an additional equivalent of 2 paraprofessionals. One of them would be from the middle school general classroom. We currently have 2, we'd be at 1. The general paraprofessionals in the middle school are primarily here for not just teacher support, but student supervision, from the arrival to lunch to classroom duties. It's a major responsibility. Secondly, we would at each of right now we have 2 library paraprofessionals covering the 3 elementary libraries. And we have 2 computer lab paraprofessionals covering the 3 elementary computer labs. 4 individuals altogether. We would assign 1 paraprofessional to each building, and that paraprofessional would be solely responsible for the library and the computer lab at that school. Now, you can't be in 2 places at once, so it means that within the school, on any given day, one of
One be
The other
closed.
would be
One be open, one shut.
Exactly.
Okay.
So altogether, 2 paraprofessionals. The second reduction would be, now this is not a vacant position, we would change the shifts for custodians, and we would reduce 1 custodial position.
I wanted to ask a question on that, because that's concerned me, because I know we've added a tremendous amount of space that the custodians are responsible for, but I don't think we've added probably the number of custodians we need to cover that space. So I know you're talking about changing shifts, but would we be risking that some areas just wouldn't be cleaned the way they should be
Absolutely.
cleaned?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to.
We would do, we know at this point, our goal, we certainly would do laboratories, I mean, that has to be
Right.
done. But whether we would clean individual classrooms 5 nights a week would be in question. Common spaces would be clean, but the individual classrooms, I don't think you could. You'd be reaching a point where you would have trouble doing classrooms.
And I'm not saying that's a disaster, but obviously it's not an ideal situation, especially if you have some kids that are messy during the day, and you got crap all over the place, and it's not getting cleaned up.
Yeah.
So, but, okay. I
Emptying the
just-
trash, just
right,
emptying the
trash,
trash.
yeah. Okay.
So that's custodial. The next, item 3, in secretarial staff, we would reduce 1.2 secretaries, and these are both part-time positions, and the areas affected would be a curriculum office, would be athletic office, and we would shift secretaries within other offices to try to make up the slack. The bottom line is 2 positions would be eliminated. And I think we have a total of 11 secretaries, so you can see the magnitude.
So you'd have hopefully be able to shift other secretaries around to cover curriculum and athletic.
We will not have any, well,
No, it just means the extension on that phone is gonna start ringing.
I was just
and
gonna
someone
say,
else will have to pick it up, but.
Especially during the athletic, during the August period when everybody's coming in to bring whatever paperwork they have to bring in and bring their money in and all that kind of stuff, so. Okay.
the 4th position, in terms of technology support, we have a total of 2 technicians for the entire district. 1 working in direct support, 1 working in data support, and altogether, we would lose 50%, half, 1 position. I mean, I'm just gonna stop and say, these are extremely,
Yeah.
extremely difficult. I just don't know how the work is gonna be done. You're to the point where you will not have people able to do fundamental